Howdy, folks. This is David Cobb. For those of you paying attention, you'll note right away that it's not Jill Stein. Jill is actually in Madison, Wisconsin. She's actually been in Wisconsin for a couple of days doing work related to the recount there because the recount actually continues in Wisconsin. We're preparing to litigate over source code, SIM cards, software associated with our efforts to continue to expose the fact that voting on those machines cannot be trusted. So I'm David Cobb. I have the opportunity to serve as the campaign manager for Jill Stein and Ajamu Baraka. Howdy, California. Welcome. And of course, I also had the honor and the responsibility of managing the recount in not only Wisconsin, but also Pennsylvania and, of course, Michigan. Hey, Tyrell and Roy and Sarah, glad you're here. And today is our typical fireside chat. Jill normally comes on and takes questions. I'll be doing that. I see Ohio's in the house, Brooklyn as well, Colorado. So folks are coming in. That's fantastic. Sarah, welcome. And John from Wisconsin. I hope, John, you got a chance to actually touch base and be part of some of the things that were going on. Loris, thank you so much. That's really kind of you. Alabama. You know, it always makes me happy when somebody who don't talk funny comes in. You know, as one Southerner, I always like it whenever I see other Southerners. I see Malaysia has joined us, and Nicholas and Rohan, welcome. And what I believe in terms of economics is economic democracy. So I absolutely do not believe in capitalism as practice, not at all. Welcome, Mary from Tennessee, and Rico, welcome to you as well. And Christine, you're right. The machines can't be trusted as they are currently configured. You know, we do believe in the use of technology. Howdy, Michael. We definitely believe in the use of technology appropriately. And what that means is that the technology, if it's going to be using computers at all, needs to be on open source software. That's the position that the Green Party has taken. I see Pancho from California, Alfaba from Efabala, from New Jersey, John from Wisconsin. I feel that, and thank you, DJ, as well. Boston, Florida. Wow, we got a big crew here, and so yeah, you know, Jay, and I agree with you. Capitalism is a failed system because it's actually destroying the planet and actually putting most people in a kind of poverty. And what's really worth pointing out is that capitalism actually does not benefit many people at all. It only benefits a very small, very elite. Well, Paul, when it comes to LGBT rights, the Green Party has always had a strong position for 20 years. And it's worth pointing out that when at the same moment that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton were both saying that a marriage is and was always between a man and a woman ordained by God, Green Party mayor of New Paltz, New York, was actually marrying same-sex couple and actually went to jail, came out of jail, and went right back to it. And it was covered in the New York Times. So we're really proud of Mayor West and the Green Party for that. Miles Francisco says, protect the internet. It's being dismantled. And there's no doubt that internet freedom and net neutrality is absolutely critical. The fact that we're having this conversation at all, including the trolls who are coming in. And I always say, hi, trolls. You're so cute. You know, I really love the fact that, what I say is that people who are trolling us and writing the kind of, nastiness that just scroll by and whatever, what's really awesome about that is they're actually not doing anything else. They're not hurting anybody else. They're not engaging in non-productive activity. They're not disrupting the Green Party. They're on here. So I always think that that's super funny. So the next question comes in from Green that says, I need a simple summary of election dysfunction I can share easily. Please, the Green Party should create this. Green, that's a very good suggestion, and I'm actually going to take a note of that. And I can tell you that we are, in fact, going to be creating a written report on what we discovered in all 3 of the states that we attempted recounts, because we didn't get recounts in any of them. And we're going to put out our proposed electoral reform, our deep democracy calls to democratize elections for voting justice. So I really appreciate Green, that very good suggestion. Christoph, who is viewing us from Germany, says it might be good to mention the international Greens. And you know what, Christoph? I'm happy to do that and lift up the fact that the Green Party is an international movement. Greens exist on every continent save Antarctica, and Greens in every country agree on the 4 pillars of the international Green Party movement. The first is ecology, a recognition that all life is interconnected, and anything we do to the web of life, we ultimately do to ourselves. Secondly is a commitment to grassroots democracy. Quite simply, any decision that affects your life, you ought to have a hand in being able to make it. Not that you get your way, but that you get to participate in helping to make that decision. The third pillar of the International Green Party movement is a commitment to there's peace, justice, democracy, or justice, right? Social and racial justice, the idea that things ought to be fair, and ultimately they're not. And then fourthly is nonviolence, because Greens are revolutionary, but we also recognize that the ends are the means in the making, so that ends can't justify the means, so our revolutionary work must be done nonviolently in order to get us to one. Thank you for that opportunity, Christoph, and that reminder for us in the United States that we are actually sisters and brothers and cousins with Greens all over the world. Susan Wong writes in to say, it was so cool that Kshama Sawant endorsed Jill. Then Susan asks, will the Green Party be continuing to reach out to third parties? The answer is yes. I can tell you that in some respects, the Libertarians and the Greens are already working together on ballot access, a citizens debate commission, and many times civil liberties issues and issues around ending war and anti-war work. Greens and Libertarians already work together. We will continue to do that. Now, on other issues, though, we're fundamentally in fundamental disagreement, so we can't really collaborate with libertarians, but we can with socialists, with other left-leaning political parties, and we'll be doing that. And at the upcoming events around Occupy Inauguration, we'll be working with Socialist Alternative. Very happy to tell you that we'll be doing a public presentation with Jill Stein and Kshama Sawant and Chris Hedges. In addition to that, we're hoping, cross your fingers, Mark Lamont Hill might join us, which is super exciting. In addition to that, other groups like others are actually going to be participating with us as well. So that's very exciting. So the answer is yes, Susan, and more. Going to Preston, who asked, what is the Ethics Commission and why were the Republicans trying to eliminate it? Well, Preston, the Ethics Commission was a subcommittee of the U.S. Congress, right? So it was a congressional committee that actually already existed, and it was tasked and charged with and responsible for taking complaints from other members of the House and then making an initial inquiry to see if there was anything further to investigate. If so, it was the subcommittee where those investigations took place. So what I would say is that any effort to undermine, subvert, or eliminate an ethics commission only happens if folks are trying to hide ethical or sneaky behavior. So I don't know, I wasn't following it closely to know exactly which Republicans were pushing to eliminate it, but it's worth looking into and finding out. In fact, that's the second thing that, a request to do a written report. That's good. And the second thing that I think is super important is for the Green Party and the Stein-Baraka campaign to look into the Ethics Commission allegations. And so, Malaysia, as our press director, you and I are going to have a conversation about that after this live stream. One of the things that always happens on these live streams, by the way, is that myself and the entire campaign ends up with more work because y'all actually give us more work. So, good on you that you're paying such close attention. So Patrick asked, why did we waste so much of donors' money on a recount that didn't even change a percentage point? You know, Patrick, I'm glad you asked the question, because the reality is that tens of thousands of votes actually did change, but they changed from one to the other, right? So the ultimate impact did not end up very much. But I guess the question is, when we know that tens of thousands of votes were incorrectly counted, when we know that we exposed the fact that in communities of color, low-income districts, and college campuses, that there were just a whole host of problems, I would say that it wasn't money wasted at all. In fact, I can tell you that it's been a minuscule amount of our donors who have had any complaints at all. And I know this because we literally track it, because we took only money online, and we can easily track back to a donor and what email they have sent us. And overwhelmingly have we gotten positive thank you and gratitude. So I know that trolls are coming in and looking for reasons to try to denigrate the effort, but the reality is it was a tremendous success. We reinvigorated the election integrity movement. We exposed the horrific nature of how votes are cast and counted in this country. So I would actually tell you that that it was a tremendous success, and the donors thought it was a tremendous success. Those donors who want a refund, all they have to do is call in and ask, and almost nobody has done that. Sort of telling, right? Now, Nicholas follows up the international question. Aiden does. Can you discuss international relations from a green perspective? I gotta confess, Aiden, that I'm not the best on international stuff. It's just not my area of expertise. But Jamu Baraka and Jill Stein both follow international issues much more carefully than I do. And I'm not trying to I, as a Green, believe in answering questions honestly. I just can't really answer that question intelligently, so it doesn't really help. I like for me to try to sort of make something up. So sorry about that, Aiden. I just want to own that. Nicholas does ask, what can be done to change this two-sided system that has left us in this position? What can we do as citizens? What can the Green Party do about it? Awesome series of questions, Nicholas. What I would say is this. Number one, we've got a lot more power than we think. But we only have that power when we organize collectively. So the way I always think about it is this. We need to fight and resist harms and abuses wherever they occur, and we need to go out and march, demonstrate, protest. In addition to that, we need to create new alternative institutions like community currency, independent business alliances, cooperatives, credit unions, a whole series of new alternative institutions that prove that we can actually get our needs met without exploiting, oppressing, or destroying the planet. Community-supported agriculture. I could go down the list. But the third thing that we have to do is recognize that we have to actually take control of the state. We literally have to take control of the state. And I believe that the Green Party should be focused in 2017 on local races. In the spring, summer, and fall, I think that Green should run for city council, county commissioner, soil and conservation district, water district, school board. I mean, a whole host of local races we ought to really go in and go in deep on. And then in 2018, we should be running across the board. And I think a red-green alliance where we take the best of the deep ecology of the Green Party, the best of the social justice notions of socialism and economic democracy, and merge them together. So that's what I think. And Cody asks, are worker cooperatives part of the solution to capitalism? And the answer is absolutely yes, right? I mean, coincidentally, I literally just talked about co-ops as one of the alternatives that we should be building on. So yes to alternatives, including worker co-ops, but let's let's recognize we need to change the system itself, right? I don't want to just create little niche options, right, where those of us fortunate enough to be able to participate in little niche alternatives can create a little niche alternative, right? At the end of the day, I think that we actually have to go into systemic change. I will say the modern or the monetary theory is something that I'm only first now being educated about and looking into. I understand that there are multiple ways to be thinking about monetary system and monetary theory itself. So I don't know I'm not sure yet. Paul Green asks, so why is Bernie Sanders not supporting the Green Party? Paul, I don't know. I mean, I think that he should. I wish that he would, and he would be welcomed within the Green Party if he chose to. And if he wants to work on specific issues, the Green Party, I'm sure, will work with him as well as we would with anybody else on issues where we find common agreement. Margaret Rogers writes in to ask, just out of curiosity, I donated for the election recount that never took place. Will the Green Party be refunding our donations and the recounts were denied? I was warned not to trust the Green Party, and unfortunately, I failed to heed the warning. So tell me, is the money we donated now being used to push your Green Party? Look, the answer is, Margaret, and I'll say it again, if you made a donation and you want a refund, write in. We've got you, like everybody who donated actually had to do so online because it's the only way we took recount donations. So literally, I encourage you, if you're sincere, and you actually gave a donation and you're not just trolling me, if you want a refund, write in, ask for the refund. We will match your record and we will refund your money in its entirety, no questions asked. No doubt about it. So, and the money that is left over will be used, remember that there's still litigation going in all three states. So the recounts are definitely not over yet. But when there is a surplus, what we're actually going to be doing is a single transferable vote, a preferential vote system to let donors themselves vote on where the money goes. But anybody who wants a refund gets a refund, full stop, absolute, no questions asked. So, Margaret, if you're sincere, if you actually did give a donation and you want a refund, ask for it, you'll get it back. I mean, it really is as simple as that. And, not only no questions asked, but no shade on you. If you want your money back, you get it back. It's just that easy. Ali asks, what programs of change or unity or education is our party active in? Great question, Ali. I would tell you this, that there are movement and campaign schools that are undergoing right now. Greens are also very active in many places across the country with groups like Showing Up for Racial Justice, Cooperation Jackson, the Richmond Progressive Alliance. I mean, to me, I'm interested in participating as both a trainer and a student in learning how to dismantle white supremacy, capitalism, patriarchy. I'm interested in learning more about how to transition into cooperative economics and cooperative social institutions. I'm interested in learning more about nonviolent communication skills. So what I know is that, I, like everybody, am on a process and on a journey. I don't know what I don't know. So I am always eager to learn more individually. And I also think that all of us, Greens and non-Greens alike, should have a little more humility about recognizing the need to actually learn more and try to teach each other. The great phrase that came out of the civil rights movement is each one teach one, and that's something that I really take quite seriously. So Tony Snow asks, hey, David, how can we get an instant runoff bill in every state? And Humboldt to love. All right, Tony, great question. From my perspective, I think that working at the local level first and then moving up to the state level, that's what happened in Maine. Remember that Portland, Maine had been using ranked choice voting already. So the first place to start is the idea was to win at the local and county level first. So that's, I think, the very first place to start. Sarah Cecilia asked, what is the Ajamu's stance on the recount? Sarah, it's a great question, and I'm proud to tell you that Ajamu Baraka took a principled stand of opposition. Now, it's not that he opposed do not do the recount. He just did not actually think that it was the best use of our time when it first was launched. He thought we should be consolidating the gains that we had made. But I can tell you that he has told both me and Jill Stein multiple times, I got to admit, a lot of good came out of the recount. He was particularly impressed by what we discovered in low-income communities and African-American communities, and has actually written and talked about that himself. So he had a principled stifled position in the beginning, thinking that it was not the best use of time, but has actually since said, since it happened, I see that a lot of good did actually come out of it. So that was, I believe, that's the fairest way to talk about a Jammu's stance. So Danny asked, what is the Green stance on nuclear power? The Green Party is absolutely opposed to the use of nuclear power. We want sustainable alternative energy production. Nuclear power right now is only used for electrical energy production, and it is profoundly unsafe. We are absolutely opposed. We believe in genuine, sustainable, alternative, renewable energy, solar power, wind power, geothermal power, tidal power, and a intensive conservation effort. That's our stance on power. Mike Plow asked, how does a young person like me break into this two-party system with being green? Mike, the short answer is get involved in your local Green Party. Get involved, and young people can run and win. You know, Michael Moore got elected to his school board when he was 18 years old, still in high school. A friend of mine in Humboldt County did the exact same thing. The reality is that young people actually are able to get involved in elections and run at the age of 18. So the nice thing about the Green Party is that we don't just expect you to take assignments from us. When you get into the Green Party as a young person, you'll find a very active youth caucus. You'll find, I hope, an empowering experience, and we'll collaborate and work with you on that. And Mike, I hope you'll take me up on that and do exactly that. Marcel Hart asks, hasn't the Green Party always had people running for local office? Why do you act as if this is something that needs to be done? Well, Marcel, the answer is yes, we have always run for a local office, and it still needs to be done. So if I gave the impression that this was something brand new, then my bad. I guess what I should say is we should continue to do that. And it is certainly true that it is almost never talked about, and we need to talk about it more. So maybe that's how I would actually say that. So absolutely. Lance Lee writes, keep mine. Thank you, Lance. We are putting all the money to good use and still working very hard at pursuing the litigation as well as the report backs. You know, Jill was just in Wisconsin. We'll be traveling to Philadelphia, February 25 and 26. We'll be going to Michigan and back to Wisconsin in March. There's a lot of work to do, and we're really excited to continue to do that work. Garrett Sullivan asks, would you mind speaking more about the ongoing litigation? All right, so very quickly, because we're running out of time, but appreciate the question, Garrett. And I think that, Melizia, let's make sure to note that what we need to do is make another report to people on this. In Wisconsin, we're litigating over the ability to get access to the source code and the SIM cards, or simulate cards, which is the software associated with it. The corporations are claiming a proprietary interest in their own code and not letting us have it. So we're fighting that in Wisconsin. In Michigan, we're actually litigating to say, you can't keep $975,000 of our donors' money when you didn't give us a recount. So you owe us a significant refund, and then we'll go through the process of figuring out what to do with it. But we're just not letting the state of Michigan keep it. And then thirdly is in Pennsylvania, where we have a federal lawsuit that's actually still suing on the grounds that the way that the elections operate and the lack of ability to recount that because of the so-called black box voting, it violates the equal protection of voters in Pennsylvania. So that's ongoing, and we can go a little deeper on that again. But thank you, Garrett, for that question. Victoria says this. It is my observation that we all must get past our rage and hostility so we may form coalitions that will allow us to rally and support a party that will run ethical candidates that will represent the American people, not the corporations, not their greed-driven selves, and the international wealthy corporatist. Look, Victoria, I agree with that. I also think that righteous anger is appropriate. Remember that righteous anger, though, is a particular type of anger because it can only be provoked by anger at injustice, unfairness, destruction, etc., exploitation. But what makes it unique, see, if you just get mad about that, then you're still just angry. That's still not righteous anger because it has to be provoked by injustice, and then it has to provoke you into action to try to dismantle that exploitation and oppression. And you know what my spiritual and political practice has taught me? That when I allow myself to become righteously angry at injustice, and then I begin to work with others in an organized collective fashion to try to remedy that injustice, I become joyful. My anger is almost like emotional alchemy. It literally transformed it into something different. So to me, that's a very profound and inspiring way to think about righteous anger is important. Aiden comes back with, how much cooperation do Green parties have with one another? For example, or for instance, what are the possibilities of direct cooperation or endorsement from the Austrian president? What a great question, Aiden. I can tell you this. Jill Stein and Elston McCown, a Green Party activist out of Missouri, are actually going to be flying to the Global Greens meeting in Liverpool, England, to have those very conversations. And you know that there is a Green Party Federation of the Americas, both North, Central, and South America. There's also an African Federation of Green Parties. There's a European Federation of Green Parties. And then there's a Global Greens gathering. So the reality is that Greens actually are already cooperating. And of course, the Austrian president is a head of state, which is a very big deal. Just as I always like to remind people, Wangari Maathai, a Nobel Peace Prize winner from Kenya, was also a founder of the Kenyan Green Party. So the Green Party's international roots are deep and long-standing, and I'm really excited to find ways for us to work together. Rico Paz asks, is it possible for a third party to ever succeed nationally or internationally without first implementing ranked choice voting? The answer is yes. But you would then have to have proportional representation. So I don't think it's possible to succeed at a national level without changing the voting system. But I also don't think you can change the voting system unless you actually participate in it the way it is and prove that you won't go away. So it's a bit of a chicken and an egg, Rico, but I'll just tell you this. I and other Greens are committed to ranked choice voting, proportional representation, publicly funded elections, access to the ballot and to the debates, ending the felony disenfranchisement, abolishing black box voting, demanding paper ballots, robust audits, our mandatory audits and mandatory recounts in close elections. We're absolutely dedicated to open source software on any computers in technology. We're committed to ending the felony disenfranchisement that allows the racist criminal justice system to continue to perpetuate. So, there's a lot of work to be done. Oh, Sarah says that she's excited to volunteer for a committee for the New York State Green Party. Sarah, I'm going to check up on you. I'm going to literally write your name down, Sarah Cecilia, because I have friends in the Green Party of New York State at the state level on the state executive committee. So I'm going to challenge you to type in the back and Sarah Cecilia, find out and see if you're actually getting in there. So I saw your little smiley face, but here's the thing, Sarah. I'm watching you. I got my eyes on you. Sarah Cecilia in New York. I'm going to find out if you actually did do that. I presume you did. So Hiram says, hey, if we question you about the main mistakes made by the Green Party, what are your answers? What are the mistakes make a real basis to make a better campaign? Well, Hiram, I guess, we're coming to the end of this particular live stream, but I promise you, if you write in with questions specifically, I'll do my best to answer them. I mean, I think a lot of mistakes were made. A lot of good came out of it. But I believe in constructive critique. I offer constructive critique. I welcome constructive critique. Carolyn says, thank you for your efforts to ensure voter confidence, which is at an all-time low. Caroline, you're right. The Pew Charitable Trust came back with a report that showed over half of the American people do not trust the reported election results. And get this, that was true whether they self-identify as a Democrat, a Republican, a Green, or a Libertarian, or an Independent. It was true whether they self-identified as conservative, liberal, moderate. It was amazing. Sarah says, LOL, thank you. You're welcome, Sarah. So Eric asked, is this a party that can tell the truth? It would be nice to differentiate from the other two. Look, I will be as honest as I can be. And isn't it sad, Eric, that we literally have the reality where the two corporate parties lie to us all the time and people know? Donna Elliott writes, the world is watching. It is important to voice our opposition to the current establishment. Right on. I'm with you on that. Carrie says, I call it putting wheels under my anger. Wheels to move. That's back to that righteous anger. I love that idea. And the metaphor of putting wheels to your anger so you can move through it towards the justice. That is fantastic. So Heidi writes in to say, I don't care if they support socialism. They are for the people and world peace. They will never have control of the entire government, but it will be nice to have a party that can bring some good change for the 99%. Thank you so much. So here's what I'm going to do, folks. I'm going to very quickly go through the last comments and wrap up. We've had a fantastic 30-minute conversation. I got to say, I love doing these where I just take specific questions. And for those of you who have hard questions, ask them. You know, Jill, myself, Ajamu, we will absolutely be part of that conversation, and we will absolutely answer hard questions. We may not give you the answers that you like, but we will absolutely engage in these hard questions. And I want to point out, the election is over, and we're still here. Right? We're still doing live streams. We're still putting out materials. And so there's a rigorous debate on socialism and capitalism on this thread. So what I'm going to ask is Julie and Mel, if y'all are in a position to sort of capture some of that, or maybe actually it might be time for us to literally do a subject on, you know, the various isms, right? And actually have that conversation. Aubrey says, love you guys. You're the only show in town. Wishing you strength, perseverance, and ultimate victory in this epic mission for America and mankind. Oh my gosh, Aubrey, thank you so very much. I mean, I'm genuinely just touched. I'm flattered. I'm humbled. Okay, so here's the thing, folks. The Green Party is getting larger, stronger, and better organized every day. My last challenge to you, please share this conversation with your friends, family members, and register Green, because when you register Green, you vote for peace, justice, democracy, and ecology every single day. Get ready. Go to OccupyInauguration.org. Come to the Occupy. And if not, you can inaugurate the resistance with us on a 10 to 5 p.m., a 7-hour live stream. Me, Jill Stein, Mark Lamont Hill, Ajamu Baraka, Melissa Figueroa, and more. Chris Hedges, Cornell West. It's going to be awesome, like you're awesome. Bye.